Professor Norm Jones, it's such a thrill to spend time with you. I enjoy our conversation so much. So exciting that you're going to be leading this alumni trip to England in the age of Elizabeth I. I want to start just by asking you, how did you become interested in Elizabeth, a son of southern Idaho?
I just find it a fascinating time because it's kind of like the crucible. The second half of the 16th century in England is the crucible that creates the modern English-speaking world. And we still go to its plays, we read its books, we admire its architecture, we're fascinated by the the marital problems, or the refusal to have any marital problems in the case of Elizabeth I. So my career has really been about studying what happens in England as under Queen Elizabeth it settles back down. As the Reformation becomes a reality, as England begins to become an empire, as they take on board all the new technology, the globalization, all these things that are happening. And out the other end comes a world that actually I think we could understand. People of the early 16th century are still foreigners, but people of the late 16th century, we could have a conversation with them.
So part of the opportunity to be on the trip this summer is to be thinking reflectively, what does it mean to live at a time of radical transformation? And I'll speak for myself. I look at the experience my children have had growing up with, these things everywhere. For example, and I look back, it's like when I was their age, this was unimaginable. Mm-hmm. And it's to the point where you can begin to see profound differences in consciousness and how we think about ourselves in the world. And so this will be part of the conversation during your trip.
It will, because ultimately the scholarly takeaway that a lifetime of studying this stuff has given me is it's about the way cultural transformation happens and how it happens in relation to generational position. And so, old geezers like me sit around going, kids these days. Well, it's true. Kids these days aren't like kids in my day. And it's a totally different world, the one that I can't imagine. And they can't imagine typewriters. So
right.
It's that thing.
Right. Or phones that are connected to the wall by a cord.
That's right. But we're all living all together in the same space with these very different experiences. And we understand that what happens to the Tudors by having to live through that, part of that becomes a meditation on what it means to live in another time of very rapid cultural change.
Tell me a little bit about Elizabeth. She had this, by any standard, remarkable reign, 45 years. She comes in as a young woman. She dies on the throne. What are some of the high points in that 45 years that you would hope to cover with the group this summer?
One of the things that we'll do in the group is we'll go to the Charterhouse in London. And Elizabeth, and we will go to Hatfield. So Elizabeth is supposedly sitting under an oak tree in Hatfield Great Park, which is a country house outside of London. Sitting under a tree when the rider comes up and says, "You're now the queen. Your sister has died. You are the queen." So we'll go to Hatfield. So we're physically going to be in the space where she was, where she called the first meeting of her Privy Council. And we will be in the old hall in Hatfield, and we can talk about what it meant to be chosen to be a member of her leadership team. And of course, the number one leader is William Cecil, Lord Burleigh, who becomes the guy that I have written so much about. So we'll start there. We'll go to London to the Charterhouse. In the Charterhouse, she leaves Hatfield and she goes to London for the coronation. She's not, you can imagine the chaos in the palace. So she stays at the Charterhouse, which at that point is a house belonging to Lord North. It used to be a monastery, but it's been, like all other monasteries, closed down, given to somebody else. And so Lord North is living there. And so it's the best good accommodation close to the Tower of London or to Westminster Abbey. So we're literally going to follow in the footsteps of the Queen as she ascends to the throne. So that's an important moment, and that whole kind of first couple of years when Elizabeth establishes herself as a ruler. Because one of the questions everybody had in their mind, of course, is, can she rule? I mean, that's really important in a monarchy, is can this person rule? And in those first few years, she proves that she really can. And she makes it really clear that she's not going to be told what to do by anybody, especially Parliament, who kept saying, you should get married. And she's saying, I'm not going to get married. I'm wedded to my country. Which, that commitment to leadership becomes very clear very quickly. And one of the things that her right-hand man, Cecil, learns very quickly is that the way you work with her is you work with her on her terms. By the end of the reign, in a Tudor term, she's quite an old lady, and the younger generation is really impatient with her because she's an old fuddy-duddy and she's not handing out enough money. But what she leaves her country with is a formed nation. And in the sense that it was a dynastic nation before. She doesn't have a dynasty. So James I is going to inherit the country. He's the King of Scotland, James VI of Scotland. He'll inherit the country, but he inherits a working country. Yeah. And that's Elizabeth's long time on the throne, her defeat of the Spanish, her success in getting the Reformation to stick. All of this comes together by the early 17th century in a stable nation, which is a global player.
You mentioned how England became a global player. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about someone who played at the Globe. Shakespeare. And are you going to? Will there be on the summer adventure? Will there be opportunities to think about Shakespeare?
Oh yeah. Well, of course, we will go to the Globe, and we will see a play at the Globe. And on the way to the play, I hope, if I can get this worked out, we will walk from St. Paul's down to the river to the Millennium Bridge, stop at the College of Arms to visit the Court of Chivalry in the College of Arms, and then across the Millennium Bridge to the Globe, and we'll have dinner at the Globe Theatre and see a play. And then when we're in Stratford, we'll see a play. So we will do the Shakespeare thing, because you can't really talk about the Elizabethan age without talking about Shakespeare, who's sort of the tip of that iceberg of cultural creativity that occupies the late 16th and early 17th century. This is kind of Norm Jones's stuff he'd like to do when he's in England because he thinks this is really fun.
Well, Norm, thank you. It sounds like it's going to be a fantastic opportunity, and I very much look forward to hearing from you and the alumni when it's over.
Well, it will be a lot of fun.